let's turn to risk-taking as a matter of leadership. And we touched on the issue a little bit, talking about businesses and risks that they take. But I'll just make a statement. You tell me true or false. A leader is a risk taker.
Not necessarily true. You know, it depends. If you talk about the leader as the positional term, a leader, not all leaders are risk takers. If you talk about what a leader does and what it means to be a leader, I think they're always risk takers. There's in fact, you know, no way for, if you think, let's look at the essence of what a leader does. A leader is looking out to the horizon, seeing forces on the horizon, understanding the implications of those forces for their team. Because we live in a world that always changes, that necessarily means at some point some of those patterns that they will be recognizing are changing. And some of those patterns will necessarily mean that that group, the people they're leading, are going to have to change. And change is always risky. So as a result, a leader is always someone who needs to be aware of and getting their team to think about how to take smart risks to address that changing pattern, the changing patterns on the horizon. It has to be.
So how does a leader create a culture of risk-taking? Sort of instill that smart risk-taking mindedness in his or her directs and the whole organization. Is there an approach or two that you would recommend?
There's a few things that I found to be particularly useful. One is define a smart failure. So we all know what a failure looks like. Well, we didn't hit our objectives, but you don't know if was that good or bad. You know, it's unclear. We all know what successes are. We hit our objectives, but a smart failure, and this is what I always encourage clients to do, is tell me if I'm in your organization and I mess up, how to do that intelligently. So, for example, I've put this sort of plan together. I've got this sort of buy-in. I executed against these sets of assumptions, and those assumptions were vetted with people. And at the end of it all, it didn't work. And I can look at that and say, that was smart. That was a smart failure. Great example of that is, cover the book is you know, companies that do these kind of innovation awards programs where they tell people, they give awards out for the best failures. I mean, Todd is an example of that. You know, the other thing is to not only have that mindset that we want to define with smart failures, but reward it, talk about it publicly in meetings. This was great. Did a great effort, didn't work out, but here's why it was great. You know, and leaders have to role model it. They have to talk about their own failures. The best way to create a smart risk culture is one in which you acknowledge as a leader where you messed up and you let people learn from that. So, you know, all critically important to having cultures where people feel okay to take risks intelligently.
Cool. So let's talk about some leaders that actually do what you just described. Who are some of the leaders today or in recent history who have not only led by taking smart risks, but have also been successful at creating a culture and organization that sort of follows that way?
So there's you know, big names out there. You know, it's funny, when I wrote the book, I thought a lot about, I didn't want to just kind of grab big names. This is Jobs, it's Richard Branson's, you know, so I just grabbed everyday people that are running extremely successful businesses that most of us will never have heard of. One guy that really, I thought had a really impressive story was Larry Tribble, a guy who runs the largest private car auction company in the country, in the Northeast of the United States. He sells 4,000 cars every Wednesday through his 20 lanes. Unbelievably successful business, and it's not a glamorous business at all, but to go to his auction looks like a high-end kind of country club. And that was a risk. He said, I don't want it to be a transactional business. I want people to have an amazing experience here. the way that he shaved seconds off of auctions. He spent time running around the world to go to fish auctions and flower auctions, trying to understand how best they do their things. They do what they do, and it led to him taking these chances, putting more lanes in than other of his competitors did, creating this first-class experience where competitors looked at him and said, "Is that a good idea? That seems very off." But to him, it made complete sense. And I'd imagine that there are, people listening to this will think of people that they know in business in their own towns that have similar stories of things like that. There's another guy, Matt Lavin, again, I cover him in the book, who is running a custom injection molding company out in the Midwest and decides to buy millions of dollars of rapid prototyping equipment that only aircraft manufacturers and big GE type companies buy. It was a total gamble. But he had this clear thread of a vision that he saw with insights driven by customers. Again, you're seeing a thread in my comments, which is that's what it's about. It's about developing conviction. How do you develop conviction? So I love stories like that of these little little smaller businesses that are doing it really, really well. I think it inspires. I think sometimes it inspires people more than just the big names out there, because not everyone listening to this is going to be a Steve Jobs or whatnot, Richard Branson. But you can be someone like Larry Tribble or Matt Lavin, right?
Sure. I want to tie the idea to a term in your book that I just love, which is find the fight in your organization. That's what we're really talking about in a sense, right? Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, risk-taking is risky, and it doesn't feel good. It feels uncomfortable. I mean, all those things I said, they're real. Discomfort, lack of control, lack of certainty. There's no way you're going to whitewash that and have them feel good. So the question that always runs through my mind is, okay, well, what is going to have you take those on and be okay feeling those? Well, it's better be something I'm willing to fight for. It better be something that I can get excited about, that a team can get excited about, that we can look back and we might have some scars. And it'll be some funny stories. There'll be some dips in the road, but it was worth it because it felt like something meaningful. And I think that there's an energy that comes from that in yourself. We've all felt it. It comes, and that you can get a team behind that transcends any rational numbers you're going to be able to put into a business plan. And there's a secret, it's kind of a secret sauce to the great companies. They all have something worth fighting for.
And they keep going. And sometimes we think risk is about, some monumental moment. Actually, staying in business, despite a lot of odds, can be a very great risk.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
Very cool. So let's wrap up by talking a little about you. And can you share with us an aha moment where you said, I need to take some smart risks here, professionally or otherwise? Give us some insight into Doug the Risk Taker. So
one of my favorite stories about me taking risks was one of my earliest memories of taking risks. I was 10 years old. I wanted a tabletop Frogger game. Coleco had just come out. They're usually
who didn't, right?
Right. Who didn't? I mean, you had to go down to the local deli and play in the back. And oh, this one's great. You can play it at home on your countertop. It was $50. I didn't have the money for it. My company was having my school was having a soft soap sales fundraiser. The person who sold the most soft soap in the school got a $100 check. Here's my ticket to get my Frogger. And I was a shy kid. I was not particularly salesy, but I wanted the Frogger. And I went out and beat the streets till 10 p.m. in my neighborhood for a couple weeks straight. I sold 8 crates of this soap, won the $100, got the Frogger. I still have that Frogger to this day. And what was funny is that Frogger then became kind of this theme throughout my career of you got to find a Frogger wherever you are, right? If you're 30, if you're 40, if you're 50, if you're 60, it's not a tabletop video game always. But there's something there, and so you have to find that Frogger, and that becomes your thing worth fighting for.
Right. Cool story. Excellent. That's it. I think we've learned a whole lot. I know I have about taking smart risks in your career, in your business, and as a leader. And again, the book, if you haven't checked it out, is Taking Smart Risks. Doug has also done an excellent webinar for the ExecuNet community, which is available as a recording on demand, so I urge you to check that out. If you'd like access to it, just shoot me an email. And any last thoughts before we wrap up today on risks?
Take some risks.
Take some risks.
Yeah, that's
We're going
it.
to do that. Thanks, Doug. A pleasure.
Appreciate it.